recently moved my savings out of my Dutch savings account. It wasn't because I was unhappy with the bank or because I was looking for some sort of quick fix. It actually started with a notification I received from an app about changing interest rates. Then it made me curious. How does the interest I'm actually getting on my savings compare to what's happening on the market? Let's talk about it. Look, I knew what my savings account was paying me, but I hadn't really looked into how it compared to the wider interest rate environment. For example, something that's recently happened in the month of June is that the ECB changed their rates. Some platforms actually are adjusting their rates due to the ECB changing, but my bank rate was not moving in the same way. So that actually led to me thinking how much of the interest rates are actually reaching savers. Like many people, I have, I would say, a certain level of comfort with my bank. You know, it's familiar, it was advised by somebody in my workplace, actually my HR. It is convenient and it works and it makes me feel safe also. But once I started comparing a bit different banks, I realized it was worth reconsidering actually. And in fact, when I discussed some of the findings of this video and my decisions with some of my colleagues, yes, a lot of these videos are actually inspired by conversations we have together because we talk a lot about money. I realized that many people don't actually compare savings rates and they might not be making all the calculations they might want to. Not because they don't care, but because it is something that people don't do on a regular basis. I think that we typically think about our accounts as a set it and forget it type of thing, but I'll tell you later on something that I do. So here's what I learned while researching. We all know that banks have savings rates. For example, ABN and ING saving rates have been, for a little while, 1.25%. However, the ECB changed in June, I believe, their rates to from 2% to 2.25%, which is it's really nice to know actually. But ABN and ING haven't changed, for example, their interest rates to match the increase from the ECB. So this means that banks, they have margins on what they actually are. The services they are providing you, which includes savings account, and this means that in this case, ABN and ING and other banks in the Netherlands, they are taking approximately 1% of that difference between the ECB saving rates and theirs as their margin. So that's one place where I was a bit like, I'm not so happy about that because a lot of these Dutch banks haven't changed at all their interest rates. The other thing was that kind of had me already a bit reconsidering about my savings account is that when you're taxed in box 3, the Dutch government bases their calculations on an assumed return on those savings accounts. And for example, for 2025, I believe the savings rate assumed by the Dutch government was 1.37%. Mind you, ABN, ING, and a few other banks have been at 1.25%. So you're taxed heavier on your savings account than what you're actually receiving. The more I looked into it, the more I understood that keeping cash somewhere is also an important financial decision that I should consider. And maybe one last thing I can get into is that, so basically, if you take everything that I've just said in the previous video, your savings account are subject to losing because of the rising inflation, losing because your bank have huge margins, and lastly, because the Dutch government is assuming higher returns on your savings accounts and you're being taxed therefore higher than what you actually earned. So here is what I chose to do, having learned these different facts, let's say, or these different numbers. Personally, I'm not saying that this is something you should do. It's up to you to do your own research and to figure out what fits best for your situation. But for me, I chose to transfer part of my emergency fund into Trade Republic. And I chose it because I already actually use Trade Republic. It's actually from them that I got the notification that the ECB rates were changing and that they are actually matching that. I'm also familiar with the platform and I've used, and also two people actually recommended Trade Republic to me. And they were also very happy with the services they got. And lastly, as I said, Trade Republic actually matches the ECB rates, and for me this is like maybe one of the few places in accessible when you are living in Netherlands with respect to higher interest rates for savings accounts. So the cash feature actually makes sense for my personal situation. As I said, this is completely you. I mean, the point of this video is not to advise you to change anything. If you're satisfied with your situation, that is up to you. But I was not. Would also maybe note that, when I had the conversation with my friends, someone said that they were using like DEGIRO or Trading 212 for their the savings rate on cash. And it's very funny because I stumbled on a video recently where you had someone mention that some of these trading platforms, they are not legally banks, and this means that they are not subject to regulation by the BaFin, which means that there is a huge risk if your money is lost that you will not recover it again. And that I was telling her, I didn't remember the specifics, but when I researched Trade Republic, because I was also reconsidering them, of course, as an option, they actually are a bank subject to regulation by the BaFin. So there is a certain safety there with respect to your money compared to these trading platforms, which are not banks. So that's just like a little comment in case this is helpful to somebody. But still, I want to say that the biggest lesson, at least for me, isn't that it's not about finding the perfect account or the perfect rate or whatever. It's about kind of periodically reviewing decisions that I've made once and then forgotten about it. So for example, this is something I'm doing since 2024 actually, is that once a year, actually during the period of January, I try to review my finances and I try to check if things are matching what my goals are. I mentioned in my goals video I have financial goals, and I think this is a bit the not moral of the story, but it's something I think people should consider doing. That's just my take. Maybe your take is different. But yeah, with that, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, interact. Maybe you completely disagree, so feel free to comment in the comment section. And if you have advice to give to other people, please also feel free. So with that, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.